This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
We have told county representatives, we have told city government that this was going to happen.
I've spent a lot of time dealing with the Iranians. Sometimes I find them extremely confusing as negotiators.
I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
A fatal fire in a southern tier motel. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. The first alarm sounded just after 6 this morning in the Binghamton suburb of Endwell, New York. Massive flames engulfing the Knights Inn, a Main Street motel, which in more recent times has become a temporary shelter for the homeless. At least 2 people confirmed dead, 2 hospitalized in that blaze. And while the cause of the fire has yet to be officially determined, Masai Andrews, who's director of the Glory Shines Foundation, tells WBNG.
We have told county representatives, we have told city government that this was going to happen. This was extremely predictable and extremely avoidable. Anyone who does work, and we have many of our comrades and volunteers who do work in this shelter, this is one of our main focuses because so many children live here. We told them that this was going to happen.
Joshua Hernandez Pica made it out alive.
I'm going to open my door because I hear screaming outside. I'm laying down in bed. Soon I open the door. The only thing I see is a dude drop in front of my door. The fire's coming out his room. My friends, but I call her auntie. She died, you know what I'm saying? She can't even make it out.
The Red Cross is caring for dozens of people displaced by that fire, and a collection center for donations has been set up at the United Methodist Church in nearby Vestal, New York. Our other big story this day, ongoing efforts to bring a peaceful end to the U.S.-Iran war. Vice President J.D. Vance flying home right now after taking part in the start of talks in Switzerland, talks that he says were anything but smooth.
Trust me, I've spent a lot of time dealing with the Iranians over the last few months. Sometimes I find them extremely confusing as negotiators. But look, we had a little press conference. They obviously don't quite have the same First Amendment protections in Iran that we have in the United States of America.
President Trump says the Iran negotiations are working out very well and says Iranian funds that will be unfrozen by the U.S. will be used to buy food from American farmers. Montana Republican Senator Tom Sheehy's a retired Navy SEAL. He tells Fox News he isn't buying what Iran's selling at the negotiating table.
What we're seeing now is the rope-a-dope they usually perform, which is buy time, lead us along till hopefully President Trump and this team's out of office and they can re-up their campaign. Hopefully this is successful, but we have to remind ourselves we are dealing with a regime that will not negotiate in good faith. They want you and I dead and all of us to be gone, like October 7th times a million.
She's a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Ta-ta to British Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
This comes just 2 years after Starmer stormed into office in a landslide victory. President Trump had predicted Starmer's departure. Former Manchester, England Mayor Andy Burnham appears to be the frontrunner to succeed Starmer. A former Olympian from Maryland is facing vandalism charges for allegedly damaging the National Mall reflecting pool. David Hearn says he was arrested by U.S. Parks Police Friday when he tried to touch a piece of peeling blue paint and pull it out of the pool. In an interview with NBC, the 3-time Olympic canoeist denies he did anything wrong.
They didn't remove, tear, rip, break, or destroy any of it. The condition of the reflecting pool was the same after I stepped away from the water as it was before I got there.
Hearn claims the charges are politically motivated. Health news next. Brain blood tests will soon be coming to help diagnose Alzheimer's. So says neurologist Dr. Richard Isaacson at the New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell Medical Center.
Blood tests are going to revolutionize, totally change. Just like we get a cholesterol test every year in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, we're going to be doing that with brain biomarkers, brain blood tests very soon. Our lab, we created a full panel for people. You can get access to that soon.
The FDA recently green-lighted marketing of the first in vitro diagnostic service that tests blood for plaques linked with Alzheimer's in adult patients. Experts estimate 47 million Americans have preclinical Alzheimer's disease but are not yet showing symptoms. Former 5-term Federal Reserve head Alan Greenspan has died at the age of 100. The American economist dying a result of complications from Parkinson's. The death announced by his wife of nearly 3 decades, NBC News correspondent Andrea Mitchell. Greenspan served as chair for nearly 20 years under Presidents Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush. NBC's Kristen Welker says Greenspan didn't start out as an economist.
He was born in the Washington Heights neighborhood of New York City in 1926, the son of a stockbroker, but he chose to study clarinet and piano. He even became a professional musician, but it wasn't to be his career.
Again, Alan Greenspan passing away at age 100. Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report, a recap of our top regional stories, highlights from today's issues in education, and a story of a diamond in a sewer. All coming up after Weather with Kevin.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Today's rainmaker will be departing, and the result, higher pressure will be moving in, with the result being drier air, brighter skies, and milder conditions as we progress Tuesday into Wednesday. The next front to deliver showers and rumbles, that'll be later Thursday into Friday. Our call for tonight, watch for a few scattered, hefty thunderstorms in parts of central and eastern Pennsylvania and the eastern southern tier of New York, but ultimately, any showers depart, clouds begin to break, patchy fog forms, low temps 50s and low 60s. Tomorrow, clouds yield to sunshine, a milder day, high in the 70s, and a good deal of sunshine on Wednesday with high temperatures in the 70s to near 80.
Alrighty, thank you, Kevin. Now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. T-minus 8 days and counting. The Pennsylvania budget due in just over a week. Will they make it by the deadline this time around? Here's Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
Session just got underway in both the House and the Senate over your lunch today, but it's the last week of June, and there doesn't appear to be any significant budget talks at this point. The House has indicated it's done its job when it passed a $53 billion budget in April. The Senate put the brakes on that, though, saying it was too expensive. Regulation of skill games is unlikely to make it in this budget because of the time crunch. The budget due June 30th. If it's not done by that time, it'll be the 5th year in a row that it's late. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Early voting's over. Primary day is tomorrow, Tuesday, June 23rd in New York State, as well as a couple others. Polling sites open at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Here's what's on the minds of some voters.
Pro-labor movement stance, anti-AI stance.
I think that if we don't do something to regulate AI, it's going to come back to bite us really badly. I think it already is.
I think it's important for somebody to know the ropes, how things work in the government, and to be honest about it with voters and with themselves.
Local and state races include Senate and Assembly positions. Democrats have held a majority of the state Assembly in New York since 1975, and the state Senate since 2019. Right now, there are 103 Democrats to 47 Republicans in the Assembly, 41 to 22, a Democratic majority in the state Senate. Polls open Tuesday, 6 a.m. They close at 9 p.m. across New York State. A massive apartment fire near Brockport displaced 30 people Sunday. Resident Jameis Austin lived on the second floor, telling WROC he saved his wife and 2-week-old baby at 5 in the morning when that blaze broke out in an entire row of apartments.
I always think to myself, one thing at a time, first things first, make sure my wife and child are safe, and then everything else step by step. You're afraid for your family, afraid for yourself, but you really got to try and focus in a high-tense situation like that.
Chief Adam Leggett says there were so many people inside that apartment building, the focus wasn't on firefighting, just on rescue.
The priority was all about trying to get everybody out, so there wasn't a lot of focus on trying to get water on the fire initially because there were potentially so many people that were still inside that need to be notified and gotten out.
The Red Cross is providing temporary housing to those impacted in Clarkson, New York. That's near Brockport. Well, we heard earlier in this newscast about a new blood test that might predict Alzheimer's. There was a fundraiser over the weekend to benefit the Alzheimer's Association, the Village at Erie Station, hosting their first annual car cruise. And organizers tell WHAM it was a big success.
I know for a fact that I've exceeded my limit of what I wanted to raise for this. So that is a definite. And I'm ecstatic of the response that we received, that the fire department came and just supported us and the community at large. We're just so blessed.
The event helps to fund critical research, care, and support for people affected by Alzheimer's and dementia. Up next, highlights from today's season wrap-up of Issues in Education, as our Bob Price and Dr. Ralph Kerr from the Teaching and Learning Institute in Houghton, New York, take a final exam on some pressing topics, including a larger major issue raised by the recent Juneteenth federal holiday.
That was a day the kiddos got off from school. It got me wondering, and a lot of listeners as well, especially those parents of young students who may express a little frustration over the lack of communication when it comes to days off and half days, etc. Could school districts do a better job of communicating when the kids have off from school?
Well, I think you have to admit that communication can always be better. But I do think that schools do a pretty good job of trying to alert parents to what's going on. Districts do publish a school calendar, and that has all the half days and the holidays, everything on there. And then in addition to that, schools, many of them publish a regular newsletter. Mm-hmm. But I think the problem is some of the parents are so busy. The children's days when they're supposed to be at school and when they're not supposed to be there sometimes just gets overlooked. Yeah. So again, I think communication can be better, but I would encourage parents to pay attention to the communications that they do get from the schools.
Yep, indeed. 3 districts in New York, Ralph: West Valley, Lindenville, and Randolph. All of them in western New York failed to pass their school budgets for a second time. That revote was last Tuesday. So they failed again. What happens next in those districts?
Well, this makes it really tough on the districts because they are forced now to go to a contingent budget. Basically, what it means is spending limit must be exactly the same as it was in last year's budget. So this is going to mean certainly some reduced or postponing of discretionary spending, like equipment. Probably there won't be any new equipment purchased at all. Certain field trips are limited under a contingency budget. There can't be any additional staff, which may result in, if there have been some retirements or that kind of thing, it may mean larger class size. There'll be some reduced transportation. All purchases will probably be either cut or delayed. It's a tough time for those 3 districts and others across the state who didn't get their budget passed.
Well, let's head to Pennsylvania. A big issue there. 2 teachers in the Hollidaysburg district are suing the school for not allowing them to display gay pride flags on school grounds during Gay Pride Month. The district policy there prohibits classroom or school displays that are related to sexual orientation or gender identity. Do these teachers have a case here, Ralph?
No, they don't. When you just reiterated the policy that's on the books in the district, they're just going against the policy. And I'm so glad, really, that the district just said, wait a minute, you can't do that under the policies that we have in place. The proper way to handle that, if the teachers are really upset about it, is to talk with the board about changing the policy. But you can't just go ahead and sue the district over a policy. This is a loser for sure, and it's too bad that the teachers have chosen to take on this particular topic, in my opinion.
Thank you, gentlemen. You can hear the entire feature and all of our Family Life original news features at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Do you rest or just pause long enough to make more money? Hi, I'm Rob West with today's Faith and Finance Minute. In Amos 8, the prophet rebukes merchants who kept the Sabbath outwardly, but inwardly ask, when will it be over so we can sell grain? Their hearts are fixed on profit, and their greed leads them to cheat customers with dishonest scales and inflated prices. Amos reminds us that the true test is more than stepping away from work. It's trusting God enough to stop striving and refusing to let profit rule our hearts. When money becomes our master, integrity often becomes negotiable. But when God is our provider, we're free to work with honesty, rest with peace, and treat others with fairness. Real stewardship shapes not only how we earn, but who we become while earning it. We can help you learn to manage your money according to biblical principles when you download the free FaithFi app. You'll find it on our website at faithfi.com.
Thank you, sir. Finally at 5, plumbers see a side of modern life most of us are thankful to not see, but every now and then they find a gem amid the ickiness. Greg Johnson owns Titan Plumbing in Michigan, tells WWJ he was out on an emergency call recently with a crew unstopping a large shopping center sewer line when a crew member saw a glimmer in the gunk. a diamond engagement ring.
He picked it up and kind of looked at each other, and he was like, what do we do with this? I'm like, let's see if we can find the owner.
Well, this is 2026, so you post about it on social media, and that eventually got them a message back from Sue, who works at a nearby spa.
She remembered 10 years ago, a customer dropped her wedding ring down the toilet, and Sue and this customer tried to fish it out themselves. They got big rubber gloves, and they were reaching in the toilet trying to get this ring out, and it was gone.
Or was it? Well, Sue got the customer in touch with the plumbers, and she produced the paperwork to prove that ring was hers, and they were reunited.
She put it on. They were crying. It was cute.
I know that if it was my wife, she would look until she couldn't look anymore. So it was good to get it back to her.
Oh, and a local jeweler first gave the wayward ring a very thorough cleaning. And that's the world we live in for Monday, June 22nd, 2026. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.